One of my good friends, a guy who I just so admired, is Peter Schweizer, I still admire him. He is the president of the Government Accountability Institute. He is the host of the Drilldown, which is a podcast. He has written numerous books. He's an investigative reporter, been on this program a million times, and is always way ahead of the game. He's brought to my attention some land exchanges that are going on with China here in our own country, exchanges for dollars, and they are still buying up more land and nobody's doing anything about it. And then there's a story today about the 600,000 Chinese students that Donald Trump is letting come in. Now, there's got to be more of this story on why he's allowing that. But, I mean, these are people that, if I'm not mistaken, and this is my first question, Peter, aren't these students, you have to be close to the CCP to be able to travel to the United States, don't you? You have to be well connected with the Communist Party.
Yeah, that's right, Glenn. I mean, look, the reason I think that Trump is allowing this to happen is because this is a top priority for Xi, and they're trying to negotiate a whole bunch of things. But I still think it is a mistake, and here's why. There's 600,000 Chinese students that come to the United States. American students going to China is a trickle. So this is not about an exchange of ideas. You know, it's not like junior year abroad in Italy where you learn more about Italian culture and you remember it the rest of your life. It's not that at all. The students that come to the United States are screened for their political views. Their families are screened for their political views. Their costs are borne by the Chinese government. So when they are here, they are functionaries of the Chinese government. And if they fail to fall in line or do what they're asked, damage can come to their family, damage can come to them. And the entire premise behind the student exchanges going back to the 1980s is that this would make the Chinese elite more like us, right? They get to know us. They become friendly. They become more Americanized. The vast majority of the hardline aides around President Xi were educated in the United States, primarily at places like Harvard. So it's not working. The Chinese leadership is actually more hardline now than it was under Hu Jintao or under Deng Xiaoping, and they're more Western educated. So it's not doing what they claimed it was going to do.
So why is he doing this?
I think Trump's doing it because he is trying to secure, a series of trade deals with the Chinese. He's trying to deal with them on the Ukraine-Russia war to pressure Russia. He's got a whole bunch of things on his agenda. This is a priority for Xi. I would say one of his.
I understand that, but why would it be a priority for Xi? I mean, he gets 600,000 spies here in the United States.
Yes. That's correct. And so here's what we know. We know that Chinese students coming to the United States have engaged in espionage. And by the way, they're not coming here to study comparative literature or sociology. They're vast majority, over 90%, are in the hard sciences. So it is stealing our secrets. We also know, by the way, that the fentanyl trade in the United States, as we've talked about before, the Chinese are intimately involved in that. A key component of the money laundering is Chinese students in the United States who are taking suitcases full of cash to Chinese state-owned banks. This is well documented. So there is a component to it there. There's also a political component to it. Chinese students in the United States have done everything from shout down speakers on college campuses that are critical of China. There have been reports in California of Chinese students being bused to places like San Francisco to engage in counter protests when people are, concerned about human rights in Tibet. When President Xi, visited San Francisco, there were thousands of Chinese students bussed in there to organize pro-Xi rallies. So there's also a political force component to this.
Wasn't there two students, or were they just scientists? Just recently, they were trying to bring in really dangerous stuff, and we caught them. But twice we caught them. That just happened a couple of months ago. Do you remember that story, Peter?
Yes, that's exactly right. And so, these were scientists, but these are scientists that oftentimes are educated in the West. They take on research lab positions at American universities, like the University of Michigan, as in this particular case. And so they sometimes bring in dangerous things. There was a report in Canada of Chinese students that were bringing in pathogens related to COVID back in 2019, widely reported in Canada. So it's an enormous problem, and it's not really something that we are focused on. Again, we are treating them as if they're German exchange students or Americans studying in Italy. That is not how China views this. They view this as a component and an extension of the state, and the students need to fall in line, and if they don't, they're going to suffer serious consequences.
Donald Trump is so strategic, and nothing he does is without several things down the line. He's usually playing 3D chess. He's way ahead of everybody else. I cannot imagine what we're getting out of this that would balance this in our favor, but we'll have to see. Is anything being done on the Chinese buying up land? I know you're on a big story now about how much land is being purchased up in the Northeast. That is extraordinarily dangerous.
Yeah, so we're working on a report right now. One of our top researchers picked 20 military bases at random in the United States, and he wanted to look at land records and say, of those 20 military installations, how many have Chinese-owned land that is just adjacent to those military bases? The answer, Glenn, is all 20. This is a massive problem. It's, land purchases are not regulated at the national level of the United States. They not necessarily should be. It's done at the state level. And certain states like Florida and others have worked hard to pass legislation in this area. The problem is you have states like California, where there was legislation passed in the state Senate, the state assembly, on a bipartisan basis that said foreign hostile governments, it didn't even say individuals, just foreign hostile governments cannot buy land in California. Gavin Newsom actually vetoed that bill. So the problem is, it was that narrowly written, bipartisan support. Gavin Newsom vetoed that bill. And I think part of the reason, frankly, is, he's involved in the wine business. He has land, vineyards in the wine area, and Chinese state companies have been buying up vineyards in Napa Valley. So it probably would have affected the valuations of his property. That's, I think, one of the motivations. And as we've talked about before, he has a, let's say, long history of association with people involved in the United Front groups and, frankly, people involved with Chinese organized crime. So the land issue is not going anywhere. It's a major problem.
Peter, if I'm just looking at this on the surface, I immediately think back to what Ukraine did to Russia with the drones, where they were in these trucks, they were right outside the military base, and they destroyed things that we in our wildest dreams couldn't have destroyed just a few years ago, and it was because of drones, and it was a whole new line of attack. Everybody knows that China is the leader in drone technology. I mean, they are just way ahead of everybody. If you have a drone and it's not, what is it, DJI, it's not the best. It's all coming from China. If you have property all around the United States, all adjacent to our military bases, that is a direct threat to our national security. I mean, you could have a barn full of those drones or a truck full of those drones, and you could take everything out on those military bases quickly, and America wouldn't have any time to respond. Is it deeper than that on concerns?
No. Well, I think that's the main one, is right. The ability not only to cause kinetic damage, as the Ukrainians have shown, by you've flown drones and you blow things up. And look, even our most secure military bases are not going to be able to defend against attack like that. You have the additional problem that you could do something more stealthy. You could take drones, with pathogens, with poisons, and introduce them into a military installation. So it's a massive, massive problem. And the notion that we can't even limit the Chinese government or government state-owned, companies from buying real estate, that somehow is a violation of some constitutional right, as if the Chinese government has constitutional rights, in the United States is patently absurd. So this is something we've got to continue to address. We're going to keep exposing it. You've been on the front lines of it, Glenn. And it's one of those things I think that people innately understand. When you think about currency flows, when you think about money laundering, it gets complicated. This is very real and basic
really
and understandable.
Yeah. Peter, as always, thank you very much. Thanks for your hard work. We'll talk again. Peter Schweizer.
Thanks, Glenn.